Hi, everyone. So excited to be here, especially with my favorite people, Carl and Kelly, the K in the K. If there was a candy bar, I'd definitely name it K and K for Carl and Kelly. That's not going to happen, but it's a great thought. With that said, we're here again to bring as much value as possible. Everything is non-scripted, in the moment, spontaneous, and that's where the audience is so important because it really gives us a launch pad to bring as much value as we can in the shortest amount of time that can provide the best takeaways that you can actually apply. Like I say, chat's open. Again, honored to have Kelly, who has just been a foundational element to everything we're doing here, and Carl, who's been a dramatic inspiration for people who want to understand what the definition of go-getter is, not just go-giver. Carl has a very successful daily newsletter that really does take a lot of time and effort and thought, unlike mine that is just telling you what the event is tomorrow. So there's a dramatic difference between them. With that said, we've got a couple comments. Beatrice, who's been a commenter lately, is maybe my into is kicking in. That's why I never took the leap to join the tribe. Well, glad to have you, Beatrice. Actually, Beatrice, I believe, was joined by her daughter yesterday. So thank you for bringing family into it. Omar, who once you get to know Omar, is everybody's friend, such a quality individual, very generous with his comments, with his time, and his ability to invite people onto Zoom Party, which is his show. And with that said, we'll turn it right over to Kelly, who can give you a quick up to date. And I know she's involved in so many wonderful things with so many wonderful people. And then we'll switch it to Carl, who can then be taken over from there. Kelly, what's your thoughts and your initial thoughts after your first thoughts on consistency? Which is
Yes, I love that. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're tuning in from. Good word for today, consistency for so many reasons. We were just saying right before we came on, I've been in the midst of a quick move over the last like 45 days. And my movers are supposed to be here in the morning, and they just texted me and they said, "Can we move you till today?" No, you cannot. Not consistent with my schedule or with the plans of everyone else involved. But so many ways that we can go into this, and it's always fun for me to be with Carl because I'm one of those probably I say rare people that like geek out over capital markets and some financial stuff. So it's a fun thing, and there's so much about consistency in that, right? I mean, that's the foundation of it. And then to probably loop it into LinkedIn Lives, I can say doing a consistent show that has led into so many other things, talking about Carl doing his daily newsletter, which, man, God bless you for doing that because it is creating new content every day, but it's so good. And I actually just did one, launched one for the Awesome Journey because I was up until like 2:30 in the morning and I couldn't sleep. So I thought, that seems like a really good time for me to launch a newsletter. And doing it consistently. I started it out bi-monthly because I thought I'm not going to be able to do it weekly or daily. Let me set myself up for success. And I say this all the time with clients as well when they're trying to launch in new strategies is when you can add something consistently, that's smart. If you want to do everything all at once, it's not going to work. One, you're going to get so frustrated. And two, you're not going to do any of them well. And the best comparison that we use so many times is with a live stream is when we do talk about newsletters. We're not saying get on LinkedIn, optimize your profile, start posting, commenting, liking, sharing, launch a newsletter, contribute to articles. We're not saying do that all at one time. Like nobody's going to do that and do it well. You've got to be able to strategically do it and do it in a way that you can consistently be responding to people, commenting on people, liking, sharing, creating content. Start off with a way to give yourself a proper path to success. Hey, I just want to be able to make one post 3 times a week, start with that and see how it works, or even 2 times a week. And then once it feels good and it's a normal part of your pattern, then add on to it. Don't try to do what so many of the rest of us do. Um, Don has been posting, I think, daily for years. That's not a goal for someone who's coming out of the gate to start. So I think that's a great way to start off on consistency and how we roll it in our own LinkedIn plan. So, what are your thoughts, Carl?
Yeah, so I've known Don for a long time, but I was out searching the wilderness for a better way of building my brand and
Mhm.
trying to improve my access to people that I wanted to work with. And so we started talking late last year about doing something with LinkedIn Live as a way of putting myself out there, sharing information that I've developed over 4 decades on raising funding, and I found Don talking about what he was doing, and it made sense to me that this was a superior platform for doing everything that I wanted to do. And so as he is letting me be a guest on his show and being part of a cohort that he is training on being the best of the best with Kelly's advice and Harvey's advice and Beverly's advice, it's becoming a bigger crowd. But he said, "Hey, you should maybe do a newsletter." And I looked at what Don was doing, and he posts something every day.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, and he's telling me consistency. I mean, consistency is like every fifth word amongst community and relationships and things, which are all critical, have to be interlinked together. So I looked at his daily LinkedIn Live. I go, I can't do that. That's not me. I don't have the time to do that. But I think I could do a daily newsletter. So on December 1st, 12 hours after Don made the suggestion, I jumped in and started doing my newsletter. I think today I'm at 132 consecutive daily posts, and I'm up to 749 subscribers. And it was an interesting phenomena. I'll just go sideways for a moment, as I apologize to Don before I got here this morning. I needed a cup of coffee to try to
Oh,
get it organized this morning.
I know.
But yeah, um, out of the gate, I found out that LinkedIn doesn't love the articles I post, but they love newsletters. And so they did everything they could to help me get subscribers into my newsletter the day I posted. So within the first 24, 48 hours, I had a couple hundred subscribers, and I've just been building steadily ever since then. And as much as I got excited about the volume of subscribers, I very quickly realized the care and maintenance of relationships was going to take its own investment.
Mhm.
And I wanted these to be high quality. So the volume is not as important to me as the people who are participating. And but doing a daily newsletter is a significant investment of time. I try to share what I call a funding point or a lesson that has come from me. And after 40 years, I have more than a few of those I can share. And every day somehow reveals two or three more that either I should learn or hopefully everybody else may learn from. So consistency is very important, I think, from the standpoint that if you're in a community, as we're trying to evolve the definition and figure out what it means, I'm treating it as a group of people where I'm ready to support them and hopefully they're ready to support me. And if you then think about it from that standpoint, would you want a fireman who only shows up once a month or only shows up every now and then and you don't know when they're going to be at the fire department if they're there to shout out to them for help when you want to do it? So I see my daily newsletter as my statement that I'm on standby. I'm ready to help. If you need me on raising a question about funding, email me, call me, do a text message or something within LinkedIn. And then I try to go a little deeper by inviting people who are also working with me on funding to come on my now weekly show on Tuesday mornings at 8 o'clock, which, as I recall, was 2 days ago, but the days all kind of blur together.
I know.
And uh, um, And again, Don and Kelly have been coaching me. Every time I do an episode, I think of one, two, or three more things I can do better. And it's a constant, tweaking, nuancing, and figuring out how to give everybody more information and get the audience more engaged. And I so enjoy getting on Don's shows where he has a bigger audience, bigger crowd, and he has all kinds of people jumping into the show, because to me that just gives more energy to it. But consistency is to me a statement to people that I'm here, I'm ready. If you need me, call me. And I think it's important that people see it that way, so that they know that you're there.
Well, in the first 10 minutes, there's been so many quality insights shared. And, what I love is having collaborations, a collaboration group, because it has a tendency to spread on its own. As an example, I was just mentioning prior to the show that Dave Snell launched his first newsletter this week. And that was a big step, because
Yes.
if people look at everything they do as a building block and not the thing, right? It's one of more to be continued. Then you do learn from it, because you put a block in place that you created, you thought of. You have a lot more relationship to it. And then the next newsletter or the next live stream, you build from that. And over time, you build, a stair step to everybody. But I know Dave probably wouldn't have been as motivated if Carl wasn't so disciplined. And I think consistency comes with discipline. And discipline to most people feels like punishment, when it just really means order. And, I'm moving to the point where I did so much that now I don't have to feel as I have to do as much. And I cut off weekends. Now I cut off Fridays, because I felt all you need is the capacity to support what you are doing, not the capacity just to do more.
Yeah.
So the focus, just like Carl says, is who do I want to work with, not who can I have on my show. Right? Because for 7 days a week, for 700 shows, I never missed a guest. So there was always somebody there. But the beauty of it is you can't help but learn from people you're working directly with, consistently with, right? The collaboration group that meets every 2 weeks, everybody comes to dump their knowledge share on the table, and everybody can pick and choose, hey, that's a good idea, or maybe that's a good guest for me. And it's that generous spirit of abundance that says, hey, I don't need more shows. I don't need more guests, but I'm certainly happy to share my guests with people because they need the exposure. And it's putting other people first, whether it's the audience, whether the people on your show. My whole strategy on the show has changed, where I'm just trying to reinforce what someone just said, where a lot of shows people are trying to compete with someone that just said something.
Yeah.
Well, you did this. Well, I did this too, or I did this versus, hey, Carl made a great point. Let's talk about Kelly's great point. And by being the person who is the facilitator, the moderator, the aggregator, that's a much more important role than the big shot. And I said the other day, the definition of a big shot is a little shot to keep shooting. And I think that's what gets you to victory here, is doing the little things right, but also having a comfort level. Because I think, to both Kelly and Carl's point, you can't sustain something that isn't comfortable to you, right? It's just like running. You can run really fast for a distance, but you can't keep it up forever. So why not be kind to yourself and put less pressure on yourself? And I think people focus too much on quality before they've actually learned the dynamics. But when you get into it, being on the show is so natural, so easy, so little pressure as it might have been before. And then the people you get to work with, and I know, like, Kelly's had Chris Hennessy many times, and certain people, when they come back, it's almost like they never left.
It is.
Right? And you just kind of build on it. And then when you get people like Todd DeWitt You have people like Ford Sykes, who are significant in their industry, and independently they say this is the best show I've been on because it challenges me, right? In most shows, it's like, what do you got to say? And they say it. Now it's like, hey, Ford, what did you mean by that? Or what do you think? And someone's in the moment and you see their response, you see their facial expression, and everybody needs a workout buddy. With that said, we've got Carrie here. Carrie's here quite a bit. Says hello to us. I'll share one of Carrie's jokes he never runs out of. Carrie says the ice cream man quit his job since he didn't want to work on Sundays. I'm in a Gleason, it's always PG, so I'll say that for you. Linda's here. If you don't know Linda, you should. She's one of the dearest women, individuals on LinkedIn. She has a tremendous ability to be generous and caring and giving to her community. Can't get enough of Linda. Been missing a life becomes change, but loving your words of wisdom today. Thank you. With that said, Kelly, we've been here we had our year anniversary, I think, back in January.
Yes.
And it only continues to get bigger, better for all of us. And, that's the other thing. Mm-hmm. When you get to know somebody, you're so happy when they get success, and sometimes it really means more to them and to you and them than when you get success, because it's all based on being there. And I think the biggest challenge to consistency is the ability to hang in there, to have some persistence, to persevere. And the only way you can do that is having workout buddies like Kelly's fortunate to have Christy Howard, Jason Wilson. Jason's been on the show. Christy was a pillar here for so many months with Harvey. Yeah. And then Harvey's gone on and launched his second show. I know. So in a way, we're like developers, right? Yeah. Someone just built this hotel and now they're working on the blueprint for the next one. And the first one, just like they say, your first million's the hardest, the second comes a lot faster. The first newsletter, the first post is always a little challenging when you're in a vacuum. But when you've got enough people say, I know where you're at, I was there myself, here's what I learned, and maybe here's what you can learn without you having to directly learn it. So, Kelly, what have you found about consistency and collaboration?
I mean, it's everything, right? I mean, in life, not just on LinkedIn. I mean, our life is about collaboration. The people who come into our life, I mean, who are the closest folks that you talk to about life situations that happen? I mean, that truly is a collaboration. People who are listening to you, giving you their best advice, and being open with what their thoughts are, which is who we should surround ourselves with. Surrounding yourselves with a bunch of people who think exactly like you, you're going to stay like this. I love being around people from all over, and I've always been that way, and so interested in other people's journeys, for lack of a better term to use there, because there's always something else to learn in someone else. And it also reflects within ourselves, because we're like, oh man, I never saw it that way. And maybe that actually is something about me. And being consistent on a LinkedIn Live, and I will start there, is because it is crazy. We did celebrate 1 year in January 19th. Weird, I remember that date. And next week is the 1 year anniversary of The Awesome Journey, which blows my mind. I cannot believe we started last year on the 18th. We literally threw a date on the calendar. We're just like, we're going. I think I made a logo legit like the night before we were going to start posting. But what has happened over time with all of these things, because people will say, well, what's the ROI of what you're doing? Like that's such a common question. And it's like, well, but you have to understand when I first started, and I think this makes sense for so many people, and I will always say there's a strategy that will be different for each situation. Regardless if everybody's looking to monetize, your setup is likely different than someone else's. So your strategy is likely going to be a little bit different. But in any event, It was just about, God, this is a cool thing. I want to learn about it and see about it. The people that I have connected with over this last year are insane. And when I say insane, if you would have told me a year ago, the people that I would have met, the people that I would have had conversations with, not just on screen, but also off screen, it's not that I wouldn't have believed you, because in my mind, I do still have that voice in the back that's like, "Oh, girl, you can do anything." Um, but I would have been like, "You're nuts. Like, that sounds crazy." But it is because of consistency, showing up, being present, being there for others, listening for others, and truly being giving. Like, I didn't start doing this because I had an end goal in mind. It was just like, wow, this is super cool. I love how the community is supporting one another, because in a community, whatever it is, personal or online, where you thrive is where you feel safe and supported, because then you're more apt to take a risk. Hey, you know what? I'm seeing these other people who started a newsletter and it doesn't seem so scary. I'm going to go ahead and do it too. Um, because guess what? You're not going to fail unless you think you are. That's the beauty of it, And I think Dave, and forgive me for using you as an example, but just because you just launched the newsletter, it took him a while, and I'm same. I just knew I couldn't do it, and it was like, if it's bringing you angst, and it's like, oh, I just don't feel it, you're not ready to do it. Like, take a step back. You're not failing because you haven't done it, but do it when it feels right, because it will work into the process when it feels right. Because when you feel like you're rushing anything, I don't care if it's in business, on LinkedIn, what have you, people can feel that. Like, we know that you're just checking boxes. And that's the same with, the dreaded pitch slap that I talk about so often, because I can't stand it and you all need to stop it. It's inefficient and people can smell it a mile away. And it's inauthentic. And I will say that's probably rule number one on any of this about consistency, is just consistently be you. Be authentic. Don't try to be what you think everybody else wants to be. Just because Carl's killing it with his newsletters, and Don's posted for every day at least once for 3 years or however long it's been.
6 years.
That's crazy, right? Like, we all would be like, there's no way I can do that. And it sounds scary. Don't try to be them though. Use them as inspiration. Like, wow, look what they did. And yeah, Carl is an overachiever in the best way. To say he was given direction and 12 hours later he implemented, that's not normal. Like, that's not what the rest of us are going to do. So guess what? If it takes you a month, 2 months, 6 months, give yourself credit for at least moving the ball. I mean, that's all it's about. We all go at different rates. And we say this a lot too with social media. It's a great thing for certain, it can be used for good and evil. But one of the things that we do to ourselves is self-compare, which is terrible. Don't compare yourself to what other people are doing. You don't know what they have going on in the background. Do they have help happening? Whatever the situation. And then to circle back to collaboration, that's where it comes in. Why am I struggling to add this to my plate? Where am I missing? Or this just seems too difficult. Who do I reach out to make that path shorter? And we say that all the time. We've been doing this for a long time. Why aren't you asking people who have done it to be able to quicken the path? Yes, you can go watch YouTube videos and the such, but it's going to take so much of your time. And that's the part I think that causes so much fear in people, right? What is trying to be consistent. It's like, oh, that's so much. But is it? Or are you going about it the right way? So I'm linking more now into collaboration as far as reaching out and having conversation with people. That's what this great, big, beautiful place of LinkedIn is. People are willing to talk. Like, you would be shocked. And again, I still sit and pinch myself sometimes when I get text messages of people who are like, hey, I just met someone who I think would be a great guest. And it blows my mind. But it's just because it's consistency about showing up, having those relationships, and being consistent with the relationships. So those are my thoughts, I think, this time around, you guys.
Well, I think, again, I just love listening to you, Carl, Harvey, because everybody's on a self journey and life does get in the way. And, we always said, don't judge especially when you don't know. And even if you do know, there's no reason to judge when you can be supportive. What I love is the intangibles that people get to illustrate on their live streams, in their newsletters, in their posts, because all the people I'm associated with are good-hearted people, are people that still have the ability to trust and be trusted, the ability to be patient, the ability to be persistent and persevere, and more importantly, have some fun doing it. And you can tell how much you support people by how you talk about them when they're not there. How part of today's conversation was about Dave Snell. How Harvey Tuck is just a prime example of someone who is now one of the top 100 influencers in franchising. Went to his big London Expo for franchising. Within 15 minutes, everybody pointed to the franchise show guy. Didn't know his name, didn't know anything else, but remembered his hat, remembered his show. And it does tell you you're making such an impact on people you may never meet or know. This show will continue to be viewed and benefited from so many people. And I think when you know you're an agent of positive change for people, that's a reason for doing it anyways. And the better you do it, the better it comes back to you. I mean, again, Ford Sykes, he came on the show and admitted he only has a 9th grade education, And meanwhile, he says, I'm only 200 of Hall of Fame speakers still alive in the world, picking up 25K plus for speaking engagements. He's figured out a way to write a book in 3 days. He's written 300 of them. And it's just amazing. I mean, he does have a staff. I was fortunate to be on his show. And if you want to see quality production, I mean, he's got it nailed down with multiple cameras, great backgrounds and all this. And probably for him it fits. I said, but and I'd love to have it too. But I said, I'm more meat and potatoes. I'm the kind of person where someone says, well, if he can do it that way, then it's okay for me to do it.
Yeah.
And it's what you say and how you say it. And that's why people reach out to Kelly, reach out to me, reach out to Harvey, because they see who we are when we're with other people. And if they know we're going to treat people in front of them like this, we're going to treat them like that. And it also sets a new standard, because somebody who's been tremendously successful in legacy areas is a newbie to what we're doing, right? Someone coming on their first live stream is really far behind someone who's done 400 or 500 of them.
Yeah.
Now you get to the point where, you're great at baseball, but I'm really good at lacrosse, and it's a different game, takes different skill sets. And would you like to join the team? And I think that's the other thing, having access, having availability. We talk about a young lady who came on with me in Beverly, and Beverly's show is women's empowerment, typically over 50. This lady came on, she was 18.
Yeah, she was great.
Imogen. And her father, who was on the show before Phil airs, recommended her. I'm thinking, well, you're recommending your daughter. And he started explaining. I said, well, I'm going to still have to have a Zoom call just to get to meet her. And she's already got 120 podcasts in the bag. Her 17-year-old sister has created her own podcast. And just imagine if you were 18 and the world's your oyster.
Oh, man.
And because of that, she was all ready to go to med school, and she wrote a big article, Why I'm Not Going to Med School, and 90,000 views on LinkedIn. And it was because now she's got this career. She's still going to college, but it was just an inspiration. And it makes you wonder, what is age? From 18 to 108, you can be here. As long as you're relevant, as long as you bring value, you have value. Before I switch it over, Dennis is here. Dennis is just a constant foundation. A Green Newsletter is a new letter we can learn from. Great to learn A to Z and show up and be consistent, not controversial. But I miss you Friday and Sunday. I miss you too. You know, I'm better for the Mondays and Thursdays because it really does give you a chance to reflect, review, get ready. And doing more is not as important as continually doing better. And I think Kelly's point, if all you can do is one and do it right, you're better off than doing two and diluting yourself. And there's so many games to play in here. You can do newsletters, post, podcast, LinkedIn Lives. It's a total array of whatever fits you at the time, and knowing that you're flexible, because I think that's the other thing to be consistent, is to have some room to grow, have some room to add and subtract. Linda comes back with, thank you for the kind words. With physical Sarah attending meetings on human trafficking and women to women giving circle, but all taking time for words of wisdom will find much here. Thank you, Linda. And she's always so giving. I can't say enough about Linda. Dennis comes back with, agree, live stream is so much better than live screaming. That's for darn sure. So Carl, a lot of action here today, a lot of velocity.
Well, there is. I think you left one very important word out of your description, and that was the word fun. So I'll just put it on the table here. We'll come back to that. But I think that one of the things we've mentioned that maybe I want to emphasize is that when you start to do something, you don't have to run it out on a daily basis or weekly or monthly. As Kelly was talking about, you kind of need to figure it out. You're going to be making an investment every time you do a show or you do a newsletter. And you kind of need a financial micro model of saying how much time, how much money, how much help, assistance do I need? And knowing that every time you do an iteration of that, you're going to get better at it. So this newsletter I'm doing now was not my first rodeo. I did my first newsletter when I was an attorney back in the early 80s. And for those of you who are that old, that meant that you had to chisel it out of stone and throw it out to the postal guy and the dinosaurs. He came by every day. And in order to have it physically distributed to people. And I will tell you that we have made advances since then. So now as much time as I can put into creating the newsletter to get the content to be a valuable lesson, I don't have to spend a lot of time moving it from point to point. It's a click of the button. And similarly, live stream to me is another example where technology has moved so far forward, so fast forward, where I tried to do some podcasting and I did 28 episodes, and I had spent so much time and so much money getting ready for each show and setting the show and working with contractors and everything. And then Don goes, well, you don't have to work that hard. You can come over here and do LinkedIn Live. And it's interesting to see how much less work, how much less money, how much less everything. But at the same time, I believe that the content is ever so much better.
Amen.
And I recall a statement made from a person I took some public speaking lessons from. He said the difference between a good speech and a great speech is 1,000 repetitions. So I'm looking forward to 2028 when I can get to my 1,000 repetition of my show, and I know I'm getting up into that stratosphere. But a lot of people, I think, get a little too concerned, about getting started. They need to treat it like an experiment, like a one-off, first of time, and say, I'm going to learn from this. It may be ugly. I may totally mess it up, but try it once or twice, figure out what works and doesn't work, go back and refine. And this is the when you talk about continuity, this is probably a more important point, is every time you do something, we've talked about making it better. And so, every time you do something like this or a newsletter or something else, step back, take a moment and go, what could else that would make this better? It might make less of my time. It might make it more poignant. It might get more people. Maybe I can get another audience member into the live stream or something. But all those things also are a demonstration to people around you that you care about them enough to take the extra time to try to make it better every time you do something.
Well, I think those are beautiful thoughts and important insights that hopefully everybody can learn from and maybe build on. And I always look at it, if not this, it would be nothing, right? And instead of this isn't what it could be, or this isn't what someone else is, well, if you didn't do it, you're at zero and you serve nobody. So why not do the best you can with what you have where you're at, with the belief that things will come to you in time that you weren't aware of. People will show up that you never anticipated, and you don't need a lot. To Carl's point, I was back in those days and maybe a little bit earlier, and the hardest thing in business was accessibility. Most businesses were local businesses. So if you're in Colorado or even like a city like Denver, your universe was basically there with some ability to reach a little bit beyond it through it. And the hardest thing was, can I get an appointment? Can I get a phone call with somebody? Can I get a meeting with somebody?
Mm-hmm.
Now it's all there. You've got 1 billion people that you have access to. You're not limited by geography. All you got to do is say, hey, I think we got a lot in common. Let's have a call. And you can make as many of those requests as possible. And you learn from rejection. Most people run from it. I'm like, tell me what's wrong, and I'll know it and I'll try to work on it. So I don't take it personal. I think people go out of their way to help people. And sometimes they get the wrong impression because either people are too sensitive or are not teachable, or they're still stuck in the past for whatever reason. But everything comes back to you, and how you take everything in determines on your future growth. And if you say, I know your intent was for the right reason, and if it does rub you wrong, you can say, can you explain a little?
Yeah.
Can you share why you said that, or what it was I supposed to learn from it? And sometimes they learn, hey, I overstepped. I said something frivolously, didn't mean it. And you come together that way. And I think when everybody feels equal, everybody feels they have a seat at the table, everybody feels their voice and their life story means something, that's when things really change. Kelly, I wish we had 3 hours today.
I know. I mean, so many things and all what you all just said, but I'm a fan of, yes, jump on a call, but know something first. Like when you come out of the gate, when we connect or you send something, hey, I love what you're doing on the awesome journey. Let's jump on a call. But why?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there is that, I will say so, but create why you want to jump on a call. What is the purpose? Because if your goal is to sell me something I don't need, I'm not interested, because I do get so many messages that do say like, I love what you're doing on the awesome journey. We have a dedicated sales team that could help you like increase your leads. And it's like, the awesome journey is a live stream, but thanks for playing. So be consistent in that. And don't be afraid to reach out to people. Hey, I've been following you for a while. I love what you do. I'd really be interested. I hear you saying this. Would you be open to getting on a discovery call? Like at least show that you know something about the person. That's my advice, because I hear that from a lot of people, because I don't know about y'all, but my inbox gets inundated on an occasion with just junk. And you have to go through and, kind of weed through it. But when you do get to the one that says, hey, I saw this episode where you guys talked about this, I know someone, or that's something that touched me, I'd like to have a conversation. Of course, I'm happy to talk to you. And after I talk to people, and it can be months later, I'll meet someone and I'll send connection. Hey, I just thought of you immediately when I was having this conversation. That's also the beauty of the true connections, and what I will say does come from live streaming. Again, a year ago, if you would have told me the people that I interact with on the regular, I would have said you're out of your mind. And even just getting guests, and to go on both of your points of what you were saying, it starts to feed itself in the sense of, starting to do something, just to give back a little ray of sunshine, positivity, motivation, inspiration to the world, and how it comes back to you later. You can't make a business plan for that. And I think what people are so drawn to, and let me back up a little bit, because all of the very first time I did a live, I was terrified because of the four-letter word live sounds terrifying, and no script. That sounds scary, because podcasts, and I do want to say podcasts totally have their place, but man, they can be very expensive and wildly time consuming. But again, they're incredible. I mean, I know people that do phenomenal podcasts. That's not my jam. I don't have that time or financial ability. But live streaming, I know people who have successful podcasts who are now starting to get into the live stream space, um, which is also very interesting, because of the time commitment. But I also think people enjoy, and I'm at least noticing this from our guests, um, they enjoy the fact that it's real and it's unscripted. Our episode this week on Tuesday, and I'm with you, Carl. I don't know how it's already Thursday. It feels like it was a month ago, but it was 2 days ago. Our guests, Ben and Jess Owen, who they were repeat. So like you were saying earlier, Dawn, it was like a homecoming. We love them so much. And they were in New York City for a huge, huge event for veterans. And they were in Central Park on their cell phones, doing this. And the guest, the very unscripted guest that came in, was someone that does work with him. And he ended up stealing the show by sharing his story. You can't script that. Like, that's just, I think the beauty of lives is because they always go a place that you don't even imagine. And as a person that gets to go on that journey every time, like this is, every day is a journey because you don't know where the conversation is going to go. Yeah, we start with the word, which I think is fantastic, but it always takes a twist or a turn or something that none of us could ever have planned, because what we put out into the world creates a spark in someone else. And then that creates a spark that goes somewhere that we would never, again, you can't create it. So I think it's really about being consistently present and actively listening to people. And that's the beauty of it. And being comfortable with being who we are, which is imperfect humans. Because I feel like some of the lives that I've seen where people flub like horribly, and they'll be like, I don't know what's wrong with me today, but man, I cannot get it together. Like I can't think right. It's so endearing. And you're like, you can't cheer for them more because we can all relate to it. So it is about, like, don't be afraid to, and fail just seems, it's such a negative sounding word. But it just means that you tried. And like you both said too, and every time we get better. But that's how we should live, I think, every day, not just a live stream. Like every day we should try to be better than we were yesterday. And hope that we have the opportunity to do that again tomorrow. So I'm gonna end
I think those are beautiful points. And you know what I know, and what I know everybody knows, is Kelly gets it. Harvey gets it. And what you get is bringing value to what you do and who you do it with. And sometimes you get to be the leading lady or the leading man. Sometimes you're happy to be the support actress or actor, right? And you ride off of what someone just said. You don't compete with them. You personify their message and say, hey, that is so great, because our goal as a threesome today is collectively bringing complete value wherever we can, but also distinct value, because Kelly has a personality, Carl has his, I have theirs. And I'm noticing what Kelly has said is a lot of people who structured live streams are now moving towards unstructured.
Yep.
Right? Because they don't want to plan it, they don't want to program it, and they don't want everybody else to say, well, here's the 6 questions I'm going to ask you, and be ready. And here's when I'm going to do this and this. And the audience sees that. And they just want, and in comedy, people love when, for some reason, people fall down. Like Chevy Chase made a whole career of falling down on Saturday Night Live and being normal. And seeing somebody's glass tip over or whatever and how they respond. And, whenever you can say, I'm okay, you're okay, it's going to be okay because we're going to do it together. I know Carl's into investment. When you say return on investment, there's a time frame, right? It's not like you put $1 in tomorrow, you get $10 back. And if you don't, you feel like you failed. You have to know the cycle. You have to know, if someone would have told Kelly, don't worry about it, but in a year, the answer will show, or in 6 months, it'll continue to expand. Then it's really you who is the big factor, right? You limit yourself by your belief system, by your ability to dream again. And, you also get validation. I know Kelly and myself have had Major General on. We've had people like Ford and Todd. And why? Because they validate what we're doing by saying, I want to come back. Todd says, I'm not going to be available till the 15th of April. I want to be on your show. Ford says, whenever you have availability, please have me on your show. And it's not for financial benefit, and it's not for visibility. It's for activity, right? If you said, all of us are getting together to play baseball next week, right? And you say, hey, I just want to be on the team. I want to be with everybody. I don't care if I hit a home run, but it makes me feel more alive. And I think that's what live streaming, that's what LinkedIn, but more importantly, community, consistency, I guess, to everything. There's so many C's that can help you. And knowing that if you're not happy now, if you see your future as not being very exciting because it's same old, repeated, this is a way to break through, but it's also a way to transition. I know a lot of people are in careers that pay the bills, but they're not what it used to be. They're not very fond of it, but you can expand your network. You can expand your talents. And also that gives you a key core competency when you go to the market to say, I have a weekly live stream. I have a weekly newsletter. I'm really proficient at LinkedIn. That's going to separate you from the same old. Carl.
Well, as usual, there's so many things to talk about, but I'm going to take a short moment to follow up with Kelly's comments about getting comments within LinkedIn. I like Kelly, are putting ourselves out there, Don, and as a consequence, I'm trying to build a crowd of people who want to work together to support funding for small business. And I'm actually been invited, and we're working through the details of putting together a collaboration specifically for funding for community revitalization, both urban and rural areas. But when you put yourself out there, you'll make yourself a lightning rod for a bunch of comments and requests for connections and other things that come in. And as Kelly said, you get a bunch of them, you have to go through them. And this is part of the investment you're making that goes beyond the LinkedIn Live and beyond the newsletter. And when you get a comment like, I've been following you for 20 minutes and I've never posted in my life, and I find you an interesting person, why don't we chat? You're like, what? And it could be, it's possible that person really does want to have a conversation, but you have no idea why, where, or whatever. And so similar to when I'm telling people how to do pitches, I said the first thing you should explain is how you can help someone.
Yes.
And telling them that you're going to sell them a product and charge them a fee is not helping the person. So that's no good. And then, and to echo what Kelly's saying is you have to recognize who the person is. You got to put whatever you say in the context of the person you're talking to, the listener. And so when I get these chat bots or these intermediaries who are checking the boxes, getting fees, I want to introduce you to my boss. Why?
Okay.
For what purpose? Where is that going to go? I know they're going to earn a fee if I say yes, but I have no idea if I'm just inviting more people into my life who are not going to do anything with me or about me. So if you're going to comment to me, Kelly, well, Don, just say, hi, I saw your show on LinkedIn Live. I like the topic. I think I could work with you, or I'm interested in what you're doing, and explain the context, the situation where you think there's a reason for you to be part of the community or to do something together. And if you do that, the chances of you having a follow-on conversation go way up.
Yeah.
So,
Agreed.
I think the other key element is the ability to strategically pair people based on having a pretty good roster of talent. So I know when
Yeah.
Khan is there, I know the kind of person Khan would like to share time with. Khan would like to get to know better. And it's easier to say, hey, why don't we all get on a show? And then after the show, Carl might get invited to another show. He might now have a little bit more of a, let's say, pre uh, understanding from the other person. When I said, hey, Carl, why don't you connect with this person and have a conversation? Why not have the conversation with the person and then decide if you want to connect? And I also full-heartedly agree that the scarcest commodity we have is time. And now when somebody says, I'd love to do something with you, I think, would there ever be a future if what we start with is the foundation, or if it's just a one-off, if it's just, hey, I want to be on the show, sell my products, sell me.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, if no one supports the show, then why should they be on the show?
Mm-hmm.
I've had some great superficial profile people say, I'd love to be on your show. And it's like, well, you've never attended a show. You never watched a video of some shows I sent you, and you just feel comfortable to just walk on, already feel like you know what you're doing before you really do. And to me, that's just says, no, I can't do that. And I think too many people say no too infrequently under the right circumstances.
Yeah.
And say yes too frequently under the worst circumstances, hoping that what they believe, what they know, and what they feel isn't true. And sometimes you got to just make a choice, right? I mean, if you looked at major league ball players, someone who hits 300 is making 20 million a year, which means they're not hitting 700 other percent to make it, but that's okay. And I think being okay with yourself is the beginning, because until you're right with yourself, you're never going to be right with anybody, because time will promote you or expose you. And people remember what you said. And if you got different stories for different venues and different people, it becomes obvious that you're not a trusting, reliable person, or you suffer from a lot of insecurity, lack of confidence, and you try to overcompensate by making yourself the big shot again. And people just want to know, hey, you're okay, I'm okay. I mean, I love everybody who's trying, and I give everybody credit. And the people who keep coming back after getting beat up a little and coming back for more, getting a little stronger, getting a little better, because it shows I can do this with help, with time, and that means so much. And I know, Kelly, you've been so empowering to so many people by allowing them to be heard and seen, in ways that they might not have been able to without you, but also give them a chance to do it themselves, free people up. Too many people want to hold people back, want to build walls so they can't get out, instead of open doors so they can flourish. Kelly?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is all about, and we say this a lot just about LinkedIn in general. There's a billion people here. We're not in competition with anybody except what we got going on up here. There's a lot of things happening, as an example, with mental health. I think that's fantastic. I don't feel like anybody's competing with me. There are so many lanes that you can play within that topic, and I think it's spectacular, because I just ultimately want more people to be open and comfortable to talk about it. Um, and so many things, and what you both just said, because doing LinkedIn Live and being who you are, I mean, I think really that's kind of at the core of our consistency, is being consistent with who you are, accepting who it is, and where you're going, and trusting the ride. Because sometimes, and this is for me where I will say faith, is not knowing where something's going, but knowing that that's where I'm supposed to be and going along with it. Because again, a year ago, over a year ago, starting this journey with Dawn, I had no idea where this was going. I just knew it was what I was supposed to be doing. It felt good. There was no thought or no agenda. Like that's the part that's so beautiful. And when you take the time to be present and just don't think about an agenda and what can this person do for me. Get into it and absorb it and just go with it because you never know where it's going to take you. It will take you to the most incredible destinations. Um, because again, I didn't come into this thinking, um, how am I going to sell my service so I can get new clients? Like, how can I drop that in all the time so it feels normal? And it didn't when we started this. I mean, it was the hour of empower. It had nothing to do with talking really about anybody's business. We would mention it, but it certainly wasn't a sales thing. Um, but how that actually did turn into business because people see you consistently. And that's exactly what I got. You're in my feed all the time. And it made me want to reach out to you and talk to you about doing some work. So definitely consistency for the win with that. And just the gift of being able to have the conversation with people that you're able to, and like you said, Don, with having people come on that are trying to sell, to make a transaction. Transactional, and this is my opinion, does not work. And it also, and I can speak from doing live shows. Don and I have talked about this off screen a lot about certain people maybe who want to come on and we're like, ooh, I don't know that they're a fit, or that didn't feel right. And I do the same with my show. There's some people that want to be on and 100% want to sell their thing. And I'm like, nope, not a fit. Like, because it's your audience is coming because of you. And yes, are they coming because of the guests that we bring on? Yes. But it's also because of the experience they know they're going to have. So you need to be careful about that. And I think to close on this thought, Dawn, of what you were saying is because we can tend to think getting alive and I just need guests, I just need to fill the spots. You need to be careful with how you do that because you don't want to get yourself in a place where you filled the spots and now you've had these people that maybe you should have vetted a little bit more before you had them on. And again, don't be in a rush. When we started, I think on the awesome journey, I think we honestly had 2 or 3, maybe 4, but I think 3 shows booked, and one of them had to cancel. Like, so it was on. Now we're booked like till the end of July, and that's only because we're not actively. We do actively do connections, but it'll all come back to you because people will then be like, "Oh, you got to go on their show because they talk about this." And same here, people will end up feeding back because they enjoy the experience. But that's about you finding your groove. Allow yourself the grace to give it a whirl. But again, just make it consistent. Show up if you're going to do it a weekly, monthly, figure out how you can do that to succeed. Do that, do it well, do the time consistently. We've talked about that a lot in the past because we know other live streamers who used to accommodate the guest. So the time would be all over the place. And that doesn't work well. But people know Tuesdays at 1:11 p.m. That's when I go. Everybody knows that Dawn is on every day, or not every day anymore, 4 days a week now at 11 a.m. Eastern, because it's consistent. Everybody knows that. So I guess I'll end up and just be consistent and allowing your own self grace of growth. Um, because it is a beautiful thing. And we do, Dawn said about um, consistency even sometimes can take a little derailment because life can throw us a little bit of a curveball. But that's the beauty of community and being surrounded by people that want you to win, that they're like, hey, I've noticed things are a little bit different right now. What can I do to help you? Not like, oh, look at what's happening over there. That's a train wreck ready to occur. And that is the beauty of finding community. Again, to go back to, that's where we feel safe, supported, because we all should want each other to do the best that we can do, because we're not in competition with each other. And then I'll end with my final thoughts because it is already 9 o'clock my time, which is crazy. Um, is because the goal in life should really be that we all go out and shine so bright that others can't help but shine too.
I always love that. That's so beautiful. And I think just to add to what Kelly says, more is not always better. Better is better. And I'd
Yes.
rather have Kelly on the show 100 times in a year than have 100 strangers kind of practice on the show, because people become personalities. People come to a show knowing Kelly's going to be here, knowing Carl's going to be here. And naturally, you want to mix it up, but you're not motivated just anybody can fog a mirror, anybody has a great story. Is I'd love to build, and that's what I'm doing with Dave, with Jason, with Harvey, with all of us, is let's have another chance. If there's a chance for visibility and consistency on the show, I'd rather show more Carl than someone who's not going to be working with me. And you got to work with the people who are working with you, because it gives them the benefit of association and validation, right? Carl, final thoughts?
Well, Don invited me to be on the show just a little over an hour ago, and I'm so happy to be here. And it really was partly because Don asked, but more importantly because Kelly was going to be the primary guest on his show. So I'm looking forward to getting Kelly on my show so we can geek out about finance together, and that'll probably be a show that a lot of other people will go, you've got to be really deep into finance to enjoy that particular show. But we'll see how that goes.
We'll make it fun.
Yeah, but we'll have fun, and I think that's everything that we're trying to say today, is that show up, have fun, be yourself, and this is what I consider a long-term investment that will yield results you cannot anticipate, you can't measure today, but I will almost put a guarantee of, on the seal of approval on this, that it's an investment you won't lose on.
Well, thank you. And I know Dennis and Beatrice have made many comments I wasn't able to get to, but I really recognize them. Linda the same way.
Yeah.
And, you honor people by how you include people, how you promote those people, and how you support those people. And it makes you better for it. And it makes them better for it and you. And that's where you really get that synergy effect. Right. And I was so honored to be the first one on Kelly's show, the first one on Harvey's show, the first one on Carl's show. And, you love to be the one cutting the ribbon at the beginning and being honored and remembering that, because people don't forget those things, and those are what stick and continue to grow. So I know we're a little bit over. Thank everybody again. I can't be more grateful, but I'm going to try. Starting Monday again, we're going to have, actually, Carl's coming in with, I believe, a brand new person. I'll just share.
Nice.
It's with Alan, who's just an incredible, Alan Levy, and he's into mentorship programs, and I think that'll be the key word. Beverly comes back, then me and Carl again, and then Kelly and myself. So have yourself a great 3 days until we see each other again. And thank you all so very much.